My name is Ivy. I am 38 years old, and I never thought my life would come down to a single moment in a courtroom. The wood of the bench was cold against my hands as I sat there, staring at my son-in-law across the aisle. Colton smiled like he had already won, his arm protectively wrapped around my daughter Marissa, as if I were the villain. The judge adjusted his glasses, ready to announce his decision, when my heart nearly stopped. I had something Colton never expected. A flash drive, hidden in my purse, carrying the one video that could ruin him. My hands shook as I pulled it out. I whispered, "Your Honor, please. I have evidence you need to see." The entire room shifted, eyes drilling into me. Colton's smirk faltered, but I could see the fire in his eyes. He mouthed something to me, a silent warning that made my blood run cold. My fingers fumbled, the small device slipping through my sweaty grip. It clattered onto the floor, and the judge leaned forward, confused. Colton's lawyer stood quickly, trying to seize the moment. My breath caught as the flash drive rolled under the table, just out of reach. I was not always this woman sitting in fear, desperate to be believed. Years ago, I was simply a single mother who fought hard to build a life for my daughter. After losing my husband, I threw myself into my work, running a small chain of nursing homes. It was honest work, born out of the pain of watching my own parents struggle. That business grew, and with it came the fortune people now wanted to take from me. Marissa was my pride, my only child. I gave her everything I could, even when it left me with nothing. When she introduced me to Colton, I wanted to be happy for her. He was charming, with a smile that could win anyone's trust. But behind that smile, I felt something else. A hunger. One night, I overheard his voice drifting from the kitchen. "Don't worry, babe," he said softly to Marissa. "Your mom won't live long enough to spend her money. Once it's ours, we'll start fresh." My chest tightened, the words slicing me open. I froze in the hallway, too shocked to breathe. That was the moment I realized Colton wasn't just a mistake. He was a threat. I tried to talk to Marissa the next day, but she brushed me off with a smile that wasn't hers. "Mom, you're imagining things. Colton loves you. He wants us all to be closer." I wanted to believe her, but his eyes followed me everywhere, sharp and calculating. Soon little hints appeared. Marissa asked why I hadn't considered retiring early, said Colton thought I deserved rest. But the way she said it felt rehearsed, like she was repeating his words. One afternoon, I opened my mail, and my blood ran cold. Legal papers sat neatly in an envelope, my signature at the bottom. It was a transfer of my properties into Colton's name. My hands trembled as I looked at the strokes of ink. It was my name, but I had never signed it. My stomach twisted. Someone had copied my hand, someone determined to erase me piece by piece. My phone rang at that exact moment. It was Marissa, her voice unusually sharp. "Mom, don't overthink everything. Just trust us. Colton knows what's best for the family." I didn't answer. My eyes stayed fixed on that forged document, feeling like the walls of my own home were closing in. On nights when fear consumed me, I thought of my late husband, Henry. He had been the kind of man who worked with his hands and came home with dirt on his clothes but light in his eyes. He built everything we had together, brick by brick, dream by dream. I could still hear his voice telling me, "Protect what we built, Ivy. Don't let anyone tear it down." I held on to those words, but grief had a way of dulling even the strongest armor. Colton's shadow grew larger in our lives, and I felt myself shrinking, doubting my instincts. But one meeting with my accountant cut through the fog. He leaned across his desk, his face pale. "Ivy, your accounts are being drained slowly. If you don't act now, Colton will own everything you've worked for." The fear in his eyes mirrored mine. I nodded, but inside, I was spiraling. Could my own daughter be blind to this? Could love make her defend a man who wanted to destroy her mother? My accountant slid the papers toward me, his voice low. You must fight back. My chest pounded as I reached for them. A shadow moved outside the office window. Colton grew bolder after that. He started talking to me directly, always with a smile that carried poison. Ivy, you've done well, he said one evening, pouring himself a drink in my kitchen as if he owned the place. But don't you think it's time to let go? Marissa, and I can handle things from here. I clenched my fists under the table. This isn't yours to handle. His grin widened, unfazed. Later, Marissa came to me, her eyes wet with tears. Why won't you trust him, Mom? Why do you hate him so much? My heart broke. I didn't hate him, I feared him. But she couldn't see that. Days later, I walked into the bank to withdraw some cash, only to be told my account was frozen. Confusion turned into terror as the banker explained my signature authorized it. Another forgery. My knees went weak, and I gripped the counter for support. I rushed home, panic spiraling, only to find Colton waiting at the door, his smile smug. You see, he whispered close enough for only me to hear. No one believes you. Soon, you won't even believe yourself. My body stiffened. The keys in my hand slipped to the floor. The first real fight came on a rainy night when Colton cornered me in my own living room. You're pathetic, he sneered, his voice low enough that Marissa wouldn't hear. A lonely widow clinging to money that should already be ours. My chest burned, but I forced myself to stand tall. It's not yours, Colton. It never will be. He leaned closer, whispering, Keep talking like that, and I'll make sure everyone knows how unstable you really are. His words stung, but worse was the moment Marissa walked in, eyes wide, and demanded to know why I was shouting. Before I could speak, Colton pulled out his phone and pretended to stop recording. She just snapped at me again, he said sadly, looking at Marissa. My daughter glared at me as though I were the monster. I felt my heart split in two. Later that night, I sat alone in the dark, replaying the argument in my mind, realizing Colton had planted his trap carefully. He had recordings, and he had Marissa's trust. My stomach twisted with dread. What else was he planning? My phone buzzed suddenly. A message notification lit up my screen. It was from a lawyer's office. The letter came in the morning, thick and official, sealed with cold authority. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Colton had filed a complaint against me, claiming I was no longer mentally fit to handle my finances. The words on the page blurred as my eyes filled with tears. Evaluation required, it read. He was painting me as incompetent, as though I were already slipping into dementia. My neighbors avoided me, whispers trailing behind my back. The lies were working. I called Marissa, my voice breaking, but she only sighed. Mom, you need help. Colton's just looking out for you. My chest ached. Even my own daughter thought I was losing my mind. Days later, a knock rattled my front door. A woman with a clipboard stood there, her tone stiff. Mrs. Reynolds? I'm here for your evaluation. Behind her, Colton's car sat in the driveway, the engine still running. He leaned back in the driver's seat, smirking. My legs weakened. I wanted to slam the door, but the woman had court papers in her hand. My life wasn't just being stolen, it was being erased. I gripped the edge of the doorframe, wondering if this was truly the end. They sent me to a nursing home for a temporary assessment, stripping away the last piece of dignity I had. The halls smelled of bleach and loneliness. I wanted to scream, but my voice stayed locked inside me. Every night I cried quietly into the thin pillow, wondering how I had become a prisoner while the real criminal walked free. But even in that dark place, kindness found me. A nurse named Emily would stop by my room after hours. She had soft eyes and a gentle smile. "Don't give up," she whispered once while checking my vitals. "People like him always slip up." Her words stayed with me. One evening, when she left the computer cart parked in the hallway, I took my chance. I shuffled over, logged into the screen, and searched. My hands shook as I typed Colton's name. My heart slammed against my ribs when the record showed wire transfers, thousands of dollars being moved to an offshore account. My breath caught. Proof. My chest filled with a strange mix of fear and hope. Just then, footsteps echoed down the hall. I shut the screen and hurried back to bed, clutching the secret inside me like gold. When I was finally allowed home for a short visit, I didn't waste a second. With Emily's help, I placed a hidden camera in my living room. Every click of the tiny lens filled me with both terror and strength. I knew Colton would slip, and I needed to be ready. For days I lived like a ghost, watching him strut around my house as though it already belonged to him. My heart leapt the night I reviewed the footage and heard his voice. "Once she's gone, it's all ours," he bragged over the phone. His laughter was sharp, cruel, and undeniable. I replayed it over and over, each time my hands trembling harder. Finally, I had something real. But the weight of it crushed me too. If Marissa refused to believe me even now, what would it cost her? I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the tiny device that held my chance at freedom. My phone rang, jolting me. Marissa's name lit up the screen. I hesitated before answering, fear gnawing at me. "Mom," she said quickly, "Colton told me everything. I don't know if I can trust you anymore." My breath caught. The proof was in my hand, but so was her voice. I wanted to show Marissa the truth, but when I finally gathered the courage, Colton was already one step ahead. "She's delusional," he said smoothly, pulling Marissa close to his side. "She doesn't know what's real anymore." He looked straight at me, eyes daring me to fight back. Marissa folded her arms, shaking her head. "Mom, you're scaring me. I don't even recognize you." Her words pierced deeper than any knife. Later that night, I sat alone, listening to the ticking of the clock, thinking about how fast everything was unraveling. Then I found another file on the camera. My hands trembled as I clicked play. Colton was pacing the living room, whispering into his phone. "We'll file the papers next week. Once she's declared incompetent, it's over. The money, the houses, everything. She'll have nothing." My stomach turned. He wasn't just taking my fortune. He was planning to erase my existence, to bury me alive inside a label. The screen went black, my own reflection staring back at me. My chest tightened with panic. A sudden knock thundered against my door, and I nearly jumped out of my chair. Someone was here. Someone who knew what I had discovered. The breaking point came when I thought I couldn't fight anymore. I sat in my dim kitchen, head in my hands, the weight of betrayal pressing down like a storm. My own daughter had chosen him. My fortune was slipping away. For a moment, I wanted to let it all go, to sink into silence. But then I heard Henry's voice in my memory, steady and strong. "Fight for what's right, Ivy. Don't let them win." My chest tightened. That night, Emily showed up, her eyes full of urgency. She pressed a small device into my hand. "Ivy, you need to see this." My heart pounded as I played the footage. There was Colton, whispering on the phone, his voice cold. "I've been drugging her tea, just a few drops at a time. The more unstable she looks, the easier it'll be to take everything." I gasped, nearly dropping the device. Proof. Real, undeniable proof. I clutched it to my chest as tears rolled down my cheeks. The fight wasn't over, it was only beginning. Just then, my phone buzzed with a new court date. My hands trembled as I realized Colton thought he had already won. He had no idea what was coming. The day of my return felt like stepping into a battlefield. I wasn't alone this time. My old friend David, a lawyer I hadn't seen in years, walked beside me. His voice was calm but firm. "We'll give them the truth, Ivy. Hold steady." I held the evidence close, my heart drumming like thunder. Colton strutted through the courthouse doors, his suit sharp, his smirk sharper. "This is pointless," he whispered as he brushed past me. "By tonight, you'll be nothing." His confidence sent a chill through me, but it also fueled my fire. Inside the courtroom, Colton's lawyer handed over thick files, each page full of lies. "Your Honor, Mrs. Reynolds is unstable, unfit, and dangerous to herself and others." I wanted to scream, but I stayed still, watching the judge's face tighten. Colton met my eyes across the room, raising his brows like victory was already his. David leaned close. "Patience. Let him dig his own grave." My nails dug into my palms as Marissa took the stand, her tears flowing, insisting she didn't feel safe around me. My heart shattered hearing it. The judge sighed, leaning back. It felt like the walls were closing in again. Then David stood. "Your Honor, we request to show evidence." The courtroom fell into silence as Colton rose, eager to present his lies. His lawyer played clips of me shouting, moments where grief and frustration spilled over. Without context, I looked unstable, broken. My cheeks burned as the jury watched. Marissa covered her face, whispering, "That's not the mom I knew." Colton put an arm around her shoulders, smug and confident. "This is the truth," he said loudly. "She's dangerous." I wanted to cry, but David placed a hand on my arm. "Steady." "Wait," he murmured. The judge turned to me. "Mrs. Reynolds, do you have anything to say in your defense?" My breath caught in my throat. This was the moment. My hands shook as I rose. "Your Honor," I whispered, "I have a video." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Colton's smirk faltered, his eyes narrowing into fire. David stepped forward, placing the flash drive into the judge's hands. The bailiff connected it to the screen. My pulse raced so hard it echoed in my ears. The room darkened, and the first words played. Colton's voice filled the silence, sharp and undeniable. "I'll drug her until she signs. By the time she's gone, we'll be millionaires." Gasps swept the courtroom. The silence that followed was louder than any shout. Colton's face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing like a man caught underwater. Marissa's eyes went wide, her lips trembling as the words of her husband echoed across the room again. "I'll drug her until she signs." She turned toward him slowly, whispering, "What did you do?" He lunged toward me, his rage snapping like a storm. "You ruined everything." His voice cracked, wild and violent. But before he could reach me, security swarmed, forcing him to the ground. The judge banged his gavel hard, demanding order. The jury watched, horrified, as the truth spilled out unfiltered. Marissa buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. David stood tall, his voice sharp as a blade. "Your Honor, this is evidence of fraud, abuse, and manipulation. Mrs. Reynolds was telling the truth all along." The judge's eyes locked on me, then shifted to Colton being dragged from the room in cuffs. For the first time in months, I felt air fill my lungs without weight. The tide had finally turned. The lies were over. But as Marissa lifted her tear-streaked face to mine, whispering, "Mom, please forgive me," my heart clenched. Colton was sentenced for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. His name became a warning in the community, a reminder of greed's poison. But the wounds he left in my family did not heal overnight. Marissa came to me, broken, begging for forgiveness. "Mom, I was blind. I chose him over you. I don't deserve your love." I held her hand, my heart torn. "Trust isn't begged, Marissa. It's earned." Her tears fell harder, but I knew the truth. Love survives, but scars stay. In the weeks that followed, I walked through my nursing homes, looking into the eyes of those who had no one. They smiled at me with gratitude, strangers who felt more like family than the blood who betrayed me. I donated part of my fortune to improve their care, to make sure no one else felt powerless like I had. At night, I sat by Henry's old chair, whispering, "I fought love. I didn't let them take what we built." The past still hurt, but it no longer owned me. I thought I had lost everything, but the truth gave me back my life. And in that truth, I found something even greater: freedom.